if you're thinking about making the switch from Android to iOS, we've got your back.
Plus, we'll revisit an app cap from an earlier time that's gotten even better.
Before I show you the app and the game that has everybody talking, are you the imposter?
I'm excited. It's time for iOS
Today.
iOS Today comes to you from TWiT's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether employees are working in the office or remotely. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Your data is your business. Protect it with ExpressVPN. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to expressvpn.com/iOS Today. And by Casper. From award-winning mattresses to pillows, sheets, and duvets, Casper transforms the way we sleep, one snooze at a time. Go to casper.com/iOS Today and use the code iOS Today for $100 off select mattresses. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Election Day edition of iOS Today. Now, I should have consulted you, Mr. Mikah Sargent.
Yes, that's me.
Because I see you're wearing the I voted button on your left lapel.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Well, you don't even have a lapel.
Right.
So
yeah, there's no lapel here. Just
maybe
it's over my heart. That was the idea.
I was wondering when I was putting this on. I think a boutonniere would go in my left lapel.
Yeah.
But the flag pin goes on the right.
That's fair. Well, anyway, I put mine on my left side. It was just, the Pledge of Allegiance. That's kind of what I was going for there.
Yeah, that's good.
But we both voted.
It's a sticker.
Probably
I can move it.
Exactly. Probably a long time ago, both of us voted.
Yeah.
But saved our stickers for the big day.
We saved
and
our
here
stickers.
We are celebrating.
That's the title of this show. We saved our stickers. Now, this show is going to be for all of you Android types. And I know there are a few of you. You can also share this if you're an iPhone type, which I would expect, with your Android friends. This is to help people make the switch.
Yes, if you're coming over to iOS for the first time.
Lots of you are, I know.
Coming back or whatever it happens to be, we're glad you're here and we want to help you kind of get settled in. And, I would say, Leo, maybe 3-4 years ago, it would be a little more difficult to come up with a way to easily make a switch. But as time elapses and phones kind of get to this point, and operating systems get to this point of not a whole lot else to add, they're sort of settling into themselves quite well, it becomes a lot easier to make the switch.
It's a mature market right now. So both platforms have kind of converged as they've matured towards one another. I'm going to say there's 3 categories, 3 general areas that you're going to be concerned about and you might face some difficulties with. One, of course, is apps. And we'll talk a lot about the apps that you maybe be using on Android and how you can get the analogous apps working on iOS. That used to be a bigger problem than it is today. I think there's parity in most cases. The second issue is the user interface. And that is also, again, where both iPhone and Android have kind of converged, moved towards one another. But we'll talk a little bit about, some of the things that people stumble on. I use both iOS and Android, so I'm going back and forth all the time. And then finally, I think some settings, the different settings, the different capabilities of the device, and even just running through the settings to give you an idea of some of the things. For instance, I was reading a subreddit this morning. In fact, I sent it along to you from a guy who'd been 10 years on Android and was making the switch because he was so excited about the iPhone 12. And he said, there's one thing I turned off on Android. I wish I could turn it off on the iPhone. He turned off animations. He says, I don't even know if you can do that. And yes, you can. It's in the accessibility settings. So that's an example of probably most of the settings that you would want that you're used to on Android. They're there. They're just somewhere else, somewhere you wouldn't necessarily expect. So we'll run through some of those too. I think that's the 3 categories pretty much. Everything fits under that rubric.
Apps, UI, and settings. Settings.
Yeah, configuration, I guess, would be another way to put it. So why don't we start with apps? You've got a few.
Yeah, so we're going with apps at first, and I think that I actually asked fellow co-host and host of All About Android here at TWiT for his kind of rundown of the apps that he uses.
Jason Howell. I'm wondering, here's the thing. Every year, Jason and Megan would swap for a month. She'd use an Android device and he'd use an iPhone. He always said, it isn't so bad. But you're not willing to do that this year.
Well, I've already got some Android devices that I also rock.
Good excuse.
Yeah, it is. It certainly is.
I always thought that was a lot to ask. I'm not giving up my phone for anybody. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it. So anyway, Jason Howell sent over an email that has kind of his big ones: email, messaging, social media, podcasts, music, etc. And we can kind of go down the list here.
Before we go into those specifics, it's probably worth mentioning that Apple actually has an app called Move to iOS that you might want to take a look at. I mean, look, face it, it's pretty much of a plug for iOS, but it will let you copy your messages, your photos, the stuff that's on your Android device over to your new iOS device. And that includes, by the way, the iPad and even the iPod Touch. There's also, when you first set up an iPhone, it'll ask you, are you moving from an Android device? So I guess I can allow the Move to have access to my calendar, my contacts, my photo, all of that. And so now you'll set this up, and I'm not going to continue, but you'll see a code on your iPhone. You'll have the iOS setup assistant running, and then it does offer Move data from Android. And so this just makes it a little bit easier. So it's a good thing to know about, but and it's not even necessary, but Apple does offer that to kind of help you for the transition.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing when it comes to photos, which we'll get to, and messaging, which I think is another big area.
That's a tricky one, yeah.
Exactly, a tricky wicket. So with mail, if you're happy with Gmail, you can stick with Gmail. There are lots of people who use the Gmail app on iOS day in, day out, and are perfectly happy with it. And, a lot of the other ones are available too. Your video, Apple doesn't have its own video platform. That's Google. You use YouTube. Maps, Google Maps is still a popular one on iOS. Apple Maps, if you wanted to make the change, I think at this point is a mature or mostly mature platform. And so it wouldn't be difficult to move over.
But you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Because there's not only is there Google Maps, there's also Waze. So... and there's City Mapper. There's even, most Android apps at this point are available on iOS. It's especially the big ones from people like Google. You're not going to have a problem. The other thing you should know is that you can still use Gmail and use Apple's built-in Mail app. Unlike Android, Apple comes with, I think, a very good Mail app, which most iPhone users use. And that will easily, in fact, it was one of the built-in choices, be configured for your Gmail. So you don't have to even use Gmail. This was one area I think Android is a little bit behind. The email apps available on Android I thought were not very good, probably because Google wants you to use Gmail.
Right. And a good thing for folks who are making the switch now, iOS 14 is out. And so if you, want to stick with Gmail and you use Chrome as your browser because you've been using it, well, the good news is in iOS 14, you can choose your default mail and default browser. So that means it's very easy to say, I want Google or I want Gmail to be my mail browser or my mail application of choice. So anytime you click on an email or anything like that, it pops up with the Gmail stuff as opposed to the Mail app. And same goes for links that you get in Messages or elsewhere. You tap on those and it's going to pop up in Chrome as opposed to Safari just by setting that. So that part makes it easy. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about was messages, because of the way that iMessage works. Yes. Making the switch from iOS to Android with messages, you have to go in and deregister your phone number. And that is because of Apple's iMessage technology, which is a way to send messages through Wi-Fi or through internet, as opposed to as an SMS.
It's easier to go to iPhone. It's when you're leaving iPhone that it's a real hassle. But there is a way to do it. But if you're going, it's not too much of a big deal. In fact, maybe the one thing you'd want to do is go right up front is go into your contacts, go your contact, and make sure that the cell phone number you use is set up as an iPhone. There's actually a choice. You can have work, home, mobile, and one of those choices is iPhone. That sends a signal to Apple that now this phone number is an iPhone. They know anyway, but it's not a bad idea to do that as well. That way, you're going to get the benefits. The problem is that the capabilities of messages are very different, and partly this is because Google never settled on a messaging platform on Android.
Right.
Samsung has its own. Everybody has their own. Google has more than one. For years, I've used Hangouts because it was available on iOS. And in fact, if you are a Hangouts user, you can just put Hangouts on iOS and you'll continue to get any messages that you were getting in Hangouts. But that's going to be deprecated in a couple of months. They're going to shut it down. So it's probably a good idea to try moving from whatever messaging system you're using to Apple's messages. You'll still be able to send messages to your Android friends. It's not like they're just going to be green bubbles now instead of blue bubbles. But other than that, Google has settled on this Android messaging app that supports something called RCS, which is really an attempt to add many of the capabilities from Apple's messages to messaging on the Android platform. But you're gonna be, I think, blown away, because Apple's messages is better than anything, any third-party app, any messages app available on Android. Do you agree?
Yeah. Absolutely, I agree. I think that it is because I've used the messaging system on the Android devices, different ones, tried out different ones.
Oh, I've used Textra and Messages Plus and Pulse and every third part, because they're all trying to be Apple's messages, frankly.
Yeah. And the group messages, there's no comparison. Group chat on iMessage is like 1,000 times better. And that's where I do most of my conversating in text format. I want to let everybody know, we'll include a link in the show notes. If you dip your toe in iOS and decide you don't like it, don't worry. While we talk about it being a hassle,
it's hard.
You can do it. I've included a link in the show notes for the self-help page, self-solve page.
That's a good point, because it is kind of a Hotel California. In other words, Apple makes it easy to check in. Your move is not going to be difficult. Getting out of iOS is a little harder. So and as Mikah says, don't fear it. It's not impossible. But Apple really wants you to live in the Apple ecosystem. And once you move into the Apple ecosystem and get used to it, moving out of it, I don't know, you use both as I do, so I'm used to both. But I've never had to say, okay, I'm going to give up the iPhone and only use Android.
Right.
And that's tough, I think.
Well, I would say the place where it's the toughest is with the messaging thing. And
absolutely.
By going to this page, you type in your phone number, they send you a code, you enter the confirmation code, you click submit, and that's the end of deregistering your phone number. But when it comes to the other stuff, here's the good thing about this. I agree. We both agree, and we both know that Apple kind of is, once you're in, you should stay in because you're going to love this.
Why would you want to leave?
This is great.
Why would you ever want to stop?
Exactly. Other companies know that too, and so they make it easier for you to make the switch. An example of this is if you did go back to Google, or I don't know, if you tried out a Samsung device or something like that, you're probably going to be using Google Photos as your main photo library. Well, Google Photos has an excellent app on iOS and on your Mac or wherever you have your stuff, where you can upload those photos anyway. So some of those places where things would be locked in, it's not bad or it's not too difficult to pull that stuff out, because other companies are like, if you want to make the switch, we want to make it easy for you to make the switch.
I'd also say that it's okay to go all in on the Apple features. You're going to want to. So don't let us say, oh, be careful. Go all in on them. But you can maintain, Photos is a good example. You could turn on iCloud Photos and use Apple's Photos app, and I think you're going to like it probably better than Google, but it doesn't mean it's to the exclusion of the Google Photos. You can have both. And I would, at least initially, I do it still.
Me too.
Keep them all. Keep Waze, keep Google Maps, keep Google Photos. If you're using Hangouts, keep Hangouts. When you start using Apple's
even if Google doesn't want to.
Well, we'll see what happens. Google may back down on that. I really wish Apple would make messages available for Android. That would solve the whole problem. Exactly. What we need is a cross-platform solution. You could be using WhatsApp. You could be using a Signal. There are cross-platform solutions. Well, actually, Signal's not a good example because it's tied to an individual phone. But WhatsApp is a good example. Facebook Messenger is a good example. But I think the features of Apple's messages are so good, and you want to use them. Here's the thing to know. The way it works, it's great if you're communicating with somebody else on an iPhone. But as soon as you're communicating with somebody on an Android phone, they are very much second-class citizens in Apple's messages. They're not just green bubbles. Group messaging doesn't work as well. There's problems. This is Apple's, I think, not so subtle way of saying, you really shouldn't be talking to those Android people.
It kind of does feel that way.
They're bad people.
There's a not insignificant amount of times where I've heard someone say, and I've heard someone say, oh no, don't add that person because they're on Android. It's going to mess up the group chat.
It's going to mess up the group. Yep.
And that's sad that it works that way, but it's a very real thing. It's
My
real.
son, and when he was in school, was in a frat. And I said, Android or iOS? He said, oh, no. We all use iPhones. There's one guy in the frat who's on Android, and he misses all of the events that we're going to because we won't have him in our group chat. And so there's incredible peer pressure to be all iPhone. And it's unfortunate. I wish Apple would stop that. I wish they'd make Apple's messages available on Android. Clearly, for any competitive reasons, they're not. So that's going to be the pain point. You're going to have to just say goodbye to goodbye, Android friends. It was fun, but it's over.
Yeah, individual messaging with Android will be fine, but
SMS
try to get in a group. It's
actually, this is something important to understand. Apple does it a little bit differently. So the old form of text messaging we called it SMS, right? Simple message system. And it didn't actually use data. It was writing on the phone system. That still exists. And there will be times when you're communicating with somebody who's not on an iPhone that it will use SMS. And it should do that transparently. Sometimes it doesn't work as well. Sometimes there's delays in messaging. Most of the time, Apple's messages will prefer data. It won't use SMS. And if you're messaging somebody on an iPhone, it will always use data. So it's only if they can't get to that person via a data stream. That's, I don't think that makes too much difference in terms of the cost. I don't think it makes too much of a difference in terms of most of the time performance, but sometimes you'll see people who are on SMS only. Those messages won't always go through. It's not quite as effective. And a lot of the features of Apple's messages require data. Things like, we should show them a few things. The balloons, the happy birthday, the confetti,
we could do
the memojis. For instance, when you do, it's so depressing. When you do an Apple message, on messages, you can press a message and hold it, and you can do a reaction. You can say, oh, that's funny, do a ha. Here, I'll show you real quick. Because this is something to kind of be aware of. So Steve Gibson sent me a funny video, and I thought it was funny. It's not worth a message back, so I'm going to long press it, and then I get these reactions. Heart, thumbs up, thumbs down, ha-ha. So I'm going to do ha-ha. Now that's great, says ha-ha. And because Steve's on an iPhone, he'll see it that way. But our friends on Android, they'll see just a little text that said, Leo laughed at your message or liked your message. They'll see a much less expressive thing. The other thing that I really love that on iOS, and this is, there's a lot of features as you use iOS. Talk to your friends, ask them what their favorite feature is, because there's a lot of features that are hidden. You would think you would just say, send ha-ha, and press return, and it would send. But this blue arrow here, this adds a whole lot of stuff. For instance, we now have effects like slam, or do it loud, or gently, or invisible ink, which doesn't show it until they tap it. Oh, Mike is sending me stuff. There's also a huge number of screen effects. That was the balloons I was talking about. And again, if you do this to somebody with Android, what do they see? Nothing.
Exactly. Yeah, nothing
worthwhile.
Exactly.
They get just left out. Now, I understand why. You can't, how would you do that on Android? You can't. But I love these things, and I think even a lot of iPhone people forget that you have this capability because it's kind of hidden away. The other thing, don't forget, you can do is stickers, and there's not just emojis here, but if you tap this A, that's the sticker store. You can add, every app will have stickers. We have TWiT stickers. It's really easy to make stickers. So you can add all sorts. And if you've watched this show, you've seen us do things. There's one that's unique to Apple that I really like. It's called Digital Touch. For instance, if I press and hold this, it's going to send Steve my heartbeat. Or I just like that heat thing. If I do 2 fingers, it sends the heartbeat. But then there's a really wonderful thing you can do, which is if you spread the fingers, it breaks the heart. So you can do, Steve, I love you. That's my actual heart rate, by the way. And I don't know if I did it effectively. No, I didn't get the breaking. But if you split the fingers properly, you'll get a breaking heart. But there's a lot of things. You can have your memojis. Make a memoji. You're not really an Apple person unless you have them. Have made your memoji. There's my memoji. And the thing about memojis is it's using the camera to lip sync and get the blinks and all of that stuff.
And eyebrow movements.
Eyebrow movements. And it's not just your face. You'll set up your face with the plus new memoji. But all of these. And again, if you're sending it to somebody with an Android phone, they get squat. No, sorry. So these are a lot of fun to play with. Apple made a big deal when these came out. They do have stickers now with masks. Jason has just sent me a picture of himself with a mask. There are a lot of fun things you can do. They will leave your Android friends kind of out in the cold.
The dust.
Yeah. But you're going to want to, I think you're going to want to move to messages. This is a perfect example of the Hotel California effect.
Yeah. I guess with Hotel California, they've also got like cookies baking in the kitchen and candles burning and all these things that draw you in too. Yeah. It's not just that you just happen to check in. It's that, oh, okay, I see now. I've got message effects and all these other things that I might want to check out.
Yeah. And keep an eye on messages because they're adding features all the time. And they're, as you can see, they're not immediately obvious.
Exactly. Let's talk about, what do you want to do, UI next or?
Let's take a break. And okay. I think because UI is going to be a big stumbling block.
Yeah.
And the truth is, if you're an Android user, you're already hit that when they went to Android 11 and suddenly your back button disappeared. There was all this stuff happening anyway. That's on the order of what you're going to face with iOS. And truth is, even iOS people have gone through this. My mom just upgraded from an iPhone 6S, which had the home button with a fingerprint reader, to an iPhone 12 Pro. And I had to spend some time with her saying, no, there's no fingerprint. It's just face. And you swipe up now instead of pressing the home button. There's a whole bunch of new gestures iOS users have had to learn. And you're going to have to learn them, too, if you're moving from Android. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Our show today brought to you by ExpressVPN, which, good news, is available on both iOS and Android and Mac and PC and Linux and your smart TV and your router. Pretty much anywhere that you go online with, there's an ExpressVPN for it. It's the best VPN, bar none, for a whole bunch of reasons. Number one, don't even consider a VPN that's free or cheap and doesn't respect your privacy. VPNs are expensive to run. ExpressVPN has servers in almost 100 countries. That's a lot of servers, a lot of bandwidth. You want somebody that spends money on all of that. They provide a lot of bandwidth. You don't want somebody who's cheaping out on you. And you definitely don't want somebody who's going to spy on you or inject ads into your stream. A lot of other VPNs do that, but not ExpressVPN. Privacy first. Read their privacy policy. You're going to love it. They do no logging. They keep track of nothing. You're invisible to ExpressVPN. And that's been audited by a third party, so we know it's true. They even go so far, they wrote a special VPN server technology they call Trusted Server. When you log in to ExpressVPN and you pick a server, you can either use the one that's closest to you, ExpressVPN will do that automatically, or one in some other country so that you can watch Netflix or other content in that country. It will automatically, at that time, at that moment, spin up a server into RAM, and you'll run through that. That server's sandboxed. It cannot write to the hard drive. It cannot log your presence in any way. And when you stop using that server, it's gone. It's in RAM. It disappears. So you're absolutely protected. Your privacy is always paramount. ExpressVPN. Internet service providers like, well, I won't name names. You know who they are, the big guys, not just land-based, but mobile carriers too, make money from spying on your internet. They market to you. I've even seen cases, horrific, as bad as it is, injecting ads into existing web pages. You may have even seen that because every once in a while your internet service provider might somehow, and you might wonder how this happens, you're browsing and suddenly you get a pop-up from them saying, oh, by the way, you've just exceeded your bandwidth or something like that. They're doing that by inject even into an HTTPS stream, injecting content into your internet. ExpressVPN prohibits that, bans it, makes it impossible. They cannot see what you're doing. You're encrypted all the way to the safe, trusted server in the cloud. I think that's the best thing. It also gives you some privacy because your IP address isn't your personal IP address now. It's an IP address associated with ExpressVPN. And they're good. They rotate those through very, very quickly so you don't get any of the negatives about being associated with a VPN. I think that's very important too. What else can I say? Oh, I mentioned Netflix. It's a great way to avoid geographic restrictions on content. So privacy. Security for sure, right? Because nobody can see what you're doing. And because ExpressVPN is so fast, you won't even know it's running. Most of the time, I just leave it on all the time. Put it on your router. Then everybody in your house is protected. ExpressVPN. Your data, your traffic, that's your business. Let ExpressVPN protect you. They're the best. ExpressVPN.com/iOS today. I spell it out, EXPRESSVPN.com/iOS today. If you go there right now and sign up for a year, you'll get an additional 3 months. That's a really good deal. If you go to ExpressVPN.com/iOS today, you can find out all about it. Do yourself a favor. Read the privacy policy. Read up on ExpressVPN. Understand what you're buying. And I think you'll see very quickly why. It's the #1 choice. It's the one I use. It's one everybody recommends. ExpressVPN. Simple, easy, secure. ExpressVPN.com/iOS today. We thank you for their support of the show. Now it's UI time.
It's time for the UI.
For a long time, I had UI envy. I'll confess it. I thought, and I think a lot of iPhone people dismiss this, that the back button on Android was the best thing ever. Because
interesting.
Yeah, because you can always go back to the previous thing you were doing. And it's not unusual. I don't know about you, but I find myself often in an app and going, now what? There's no buttons. I don't know what to do. That back button was a lifesaver. Well, interestingly, for a long time, Apple said, "Oh, you don't need a back button." Now they have a back. They have a back command. It's not a back button. So, do you want me to show it, or would you like to show it?
Yeah, you can show it.
I'll show it real quickly here. If you get a modern iPhone that doesn't have a home button, very similar to Android. You swipe like that. There's even a swipe right command that it's a little different than the Pixel Google information form. Although you could put Google in here, you get a widget box. We've also now got widgets, which gives iOS some parity. In fact, there's some really nice iOS widget features like this. This is the stack widget, which allows you to have multiple things selected by the time of day or rotate through them manually in your homepage. So I think that's a really nice feature. Widgets are a little different on iOS. They're static. They're not live. You won't see a clock with a ticking hand, that kind of thing. But they refresh periodically behind the scenes. So I don't know. I think they're pretty good. I think they give you a lot of what you were looking for with widgets. You know what I'm going to do? We're going to get to this. This is the settings thing, but let me turn on Do Not Disturb so it stopped getting pop-ups. So when you open, let's say we're here in Apple Maps. When you open an app, you have a couple of commands. The #1 command, the Go Home command, is actually now the same on Android 11 and iOS. Android still gives you those back buttons, but in the home button. But just to swipe up, you see that bar on the bottom? You swipe up from the bottom. That's going to bring you back home. And if you're on page 2 or 3, a swipe up is going to bring you back to page 1. So get used to the swipe up command. This is the one I had a little trouble with my mom teaching her, which is the swipe up halfway and hold button. But that's how you get to recents. Okay, there's 3 buttons on old style Android phones. There's the home button, that's swipe up. There's the recents button, and to do that we swipe up and hold halfway, and then you're going to get all the recents. Another thing I should point out, Android people are used to tweaking things, and in the old days of Android, for instance, you really wanted to close things you weren't using like that. You don't have to do that. Don't.
Please.
The thing you should probably get used to is unless you have a really good reason to change things, let Apple choose how to run this stuff. Don't worry about background processes. Apple's really good at this, much better than old Android was. Android's gotten better, but Apple honestly is really good. So home is swiping up. Recents is swiping up halfway. Now here's the one that's a little trickier, and that's the back button. Did you know that there's a back button? I should ask.
In iOS?
Yeah,
Yes.
You did know that. Okay.
Yes.
And it's a little weird because I don't actually like it, but it does
label the back button.
It does what you expect it to, which is and it's a little tricky. Okay. You swipe in from the edge, right? Am I right or no?
Yes, but okay, that's not the back button I thought you were talking about.
What's the back button you thinking of?
The back button I'm thinking of is where you are in one app. Yeah. So, for example,
let's see, I have Audible, and now I'm going to open News, and I want to go back to Audible. I do this.
No, that's not the one. I'll show you.
Okay, so, well, this is a good one, too. This is how you go to previous apps.
My version of the back button is an example of this is if I am in search and I type in New York Times and it pulls up, okay, we'll go with the crossword. Now in the top left corner, you see a little arrow.
Oh, that's back to search.
Search, yeah. And I can go back to search. And basically in any app or anything that I'm doing, if it pops me out to another app, it will show in that top left corner a little back button
that you can use to
get back to the app that you want to get to.
I agree. That's a really good one to know about.
So it's kind of dynamic, I guess, a dynamic back button or a back swipe. Depending on what you need, you can swipe from the left side of the screen or go back to the last page.
This is one and honestly, back buttons have always been a little challenging on Android and iOS. The complaint people have is, well, I don't know what's going to happen. It's always a little bit of a mystery. Here I am on Amazon, and in this case, there is a back button, but if there weren't in the UI, this would take me to the previous Amazon page, and doing it again would take me to the previous page. That's in the Amazon app. So that's kind of what would happen if you did that in Android, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Now at this point, I'm at the top level. There's no back to go, so swiping in from the left isn't going to change it anymore. Swiping in from the right doesn't do what you'd expect it to do, which is go that way. Forward, yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah, you're right. There's actually more than one way to go back. It kind of bugs me that the search thing, if you get to something from search, just sits there the whole time. But yeah, but I think it's because they realize people get disoriented, and so now being able to go back to search or back to the app that brung you, let's call that the back to the app that brung you button, is handy.
app that brung you.
Yeah,
Wow.
because, for instance, if you are in an email and you click a link in the email and it opens the browser, there will then be a back to the app that brung you button up at the top that takes you back to email. So I think they figured out actually some good ways to get to handle these, you know, kind of edge cases where there's things they know people are going to want to do. How do you display something on screen or nudge them in the right direction? I think they've done a pretty good job. But that's where people, I think, moving from Android or moving from an older iPhone, that's where people get confused. This UI, this new, you know, no button UI is not intuitive, and it takes some discovery. Get the Apple Tips app. I strongly recommend it. It will come with your iPhone, and go through those tips, because the Apple does understand these problems and will give you tips on how to do things. And you know, you don't want to learn it all at once. So having the Tips app there to every once in a while pop up some suggestions is a good idea.
That is a really good bit of advice, and I'll be sure to add that to the link to that to the show notes. But yes, it's the BTATB button. Back to the app that brought you.
I like it, right? Back to the app that brought you. And you know, if you go into Tips, you'll see, you know, there are a lot of there's a lot of information. Frankly, I'd forgotten that. You can slide a message over and see what time it was sent. AirDrop.
See, we learn new things from it as well.
Well, there's so much built in. AirDrop is something that Android's just getting around to. This is something new in Android 11. We've had this in iOS for a long time, but it only works for other people on Apple devices. It doesn't work across Android. So this is the Tips app has a lot of great information in various areas. I don't know about you. When I'm learning something new, I don't try to read the manual ahead of time. I read enough to get started, use the thing, because that's when it generates questions. It's almost, for me, it's like it's a layered approach where I learn a little bit more and then use it and then go, oh, now I've got some questions, learn a little bit more. I find that's the easiest way to learn for me anyway.
Yeah, I think that because you're sort of chomping down on things slowly
instead of
as
trying to
opposed
memorize it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way of doing it, and I think that it's worth just, you know, trying to play around. One of my favorite things to do in any device is immediately hop into the settings app and start looking at what is customizable. And I think folks that are from Android will particularly be into that, given the customizable nature of Android. And I think that one of the favorite places I would suspect that Android users will end up liking is the accessibility section, because this is where Apple puts a lot of customizable features for your iOS device that have accessibility and inclusion in mind, but are tools that anyone can make use of. And in many ways, many of us who use this platform regularly make use of. And so besides the main controls for voiceover and things like that, Leo had mentioned earlier, there was a person who, there's an excellent Reddit post, I did see your link and read that this morning, where the motion stuff was jarring and was something that they wanted to have turned off. And so within the accessibility section, you can tap on motion and there's a toggle for reduce motion. And basically it removes like the parallax effect on icons and does some other stuff where when you're swiping between apps, it's a little bit simpler. And autoplay message effects you can turn off, so that way those things that we were showing where the confetti happened and the spotlight happened, those won't automatically play. And then video previews you can turn off. And a lot of folks actually, as of iOS 14, because of their home screen customization stuff that they've wanted to do, have turned on reduce motion, because if they do so, then it stops their perfect aesthetic from being messed up on their home screens. So as I said, these are features that everybody ends up using, regardless of whether you're new to iOS, an iOS veteran, or somewhere in between. And there are just so many tools in here that you can make use of, and some stuff that kind of makes your phone more powerful than maybe you expected.
I have an appointment with my mom because she's had her phone and she got a new watch. That's why I had to get a new phone. And I'm going to do exactly what you're doing, which is go down one by one through every setting and say, okay, Mom, let's customize this. Let's customize this. I'm going to do it with the watch too.
Good, yeah.
But what you're going to see is, and this is somewhat true of Android, but it's really worse on iOS, a mess. A mess. And this is as these operating systems have aged and they've added more things to change and more settings. It's a mess. But here's the #1 confusing thing that really baffles a lot of people. It still baffles me in iOS. Per app settings.
Oh, my Lord.
Are generally, not always, but generally not in the app. So apps will have settings sometimes, but a lot of the times the things you want to change in the behavior of an app are not in the app. They're in the iOS settings. And if you scroll down, this is so frustrating to me. This is so, but you know, I understand why Apple did it, but if you go to settings and you scroll down, you'll see after all of the official Apple things, this is the longest page in history.
It's ridiculous.
It's gotten more and more out of control. But in addition, after we get, now we're at the bottom of the Apple things here. There are all the apps on your phone. And it's sometimes you'll look at the app and you'll say, well, I don't see that in the settings. Go to the Apple settings and then you will see additional settings. And very often the ones you really want to change are here. For instance, if you're using a photo app and you accidentally when you launch the app forget to give it settings that allow it to access photos, for instance, you know, you by accident say, no, you can't access my photos, making the photo app useless. You'll go to PS Camera in this case and say, where is that? It's not there. It's in Apple's settings. So you'll have, and there's no way to find out, by the way, when you've done that, there's no way to do it from the app. You have to now go to Apple's settings. So it's probably a good idea. Most of these are the privacy settings, but there's other stuff as well. It's probably a good idea to go into Apple's settings after you set up your phone and you get all your apps on here and just take a look. Because, you know, permissions, yes. You know, Siri and search is nice. This is something that's unique to the iPhone. This allows Siri access to how you use the app so that they can make some suggestions. That's always a good thing to turn on. As you know, location, you're probably familiar with. Apple's notification system is bizarrely Baroque. Bizarrely Baroque. You know, one of the things Android's done because notifications are such a big deal on a phone is they pop up. When they pop up a notification, they pop up controls for that notification app in that notification. So you can set the app there, which is where you want to set it because it's front of mind that, oh man, that app keeps bugging me. Apple's starting to do that, but most of the time you'll have to actually go to settings, go to the app, then go to the notifications. I generally turn off notifications for everything. At least Apple does have that one simple button. But if you do want notifications, there's a lot of customization for you know how it works. And so another thing to probably be aware of is those settings are not in the app where they would be on Android. They are in Apple's own settings. And you know, it means you're going to spend a lot of time scrolling around in here. Look at, you know, you got to go through every app one by one to change it. It's kind of crazy.
It is. It is a little bit.
A couple of things you're going to want to do. I think with the settings, right off the top. Well, you know, you could start at the top and go down. Oh, here's another thing. It's not immediately obvious. A lot of the juiciest settings are under your name. That looks like it's just saying who is this, but no. Right. No. There's a lot of stuff in here. A ton of stuff in here. So go click your head. I always say to my mom, click your head, Mom, or click your name, and you will get this Apple ID settings. And there's a lot of stuff in there that you might want to change, including all the things you subscribe to and so forth. These initial settings will all be pretty familiar. They're the connections settings. They're also right at the top on Android. This is confusing because you see notifications here and you might think, oh, this is how I set notifications. Yes and no. Yes and no. So yeah, and you can decide kind of some global stuff, but then also remember I set those notifications for what was it? I can't remember, Reader or something. Yeah, this is also here for I don't know why. I don't know why. Play with sounds. Do not disturb is a very nice thing. I thought I'd turned on do not disturb. Let me do that right now because I keep getting those notifications. Oh, it is on. Why am I getting notifications?
I believe it's. Well, I was just going to say. I think it's because you have while iPhone is locked.
No, that's silence. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to say always. Always. Yeah. Now, no notifications. So they're in real time. You can see. How crazy this is. General. So it looks like this is a long thing, right? Oh, no. Really, most of it's in general. So a lot of what you're going to want is in general, including, I think, the most important. Oh, maybe they moved it out. They did. Used to be accessibility was in here. The most important thing to play with, you might say, well, I don't need accessibility. But remember that motion, too much motion, that's in here. There are a lot of settings that everybody should be aware of. There are a lot of things you can change here. So I would definitely go into accessibility. You might say, well, I don't have a disability. I don't need to worry about this. No, there's a lot of stuff in here. For instance, just zoom is nice to choose how much zoom you have. Whoa, that's too much zoom. That's a different kind of zoom. I would play with these. I think these are also things. Oh, this is the one I meant, display size. You can choose, for instance, if you want to have larger text. That's something in the setup that happens, but you may say, oh, I chose wrong. It's too small or it's too big. This is where it's hidden in accessibility, things like that. What else? What other things? What other important
I think accessibility
tidbits?
Is kind of the big thing.
That's a big one, yeah.
That's where a lot of the stuff is hidden. And you mentioned you might want to show Control Center, which is a little different.
That's one place your settings are. Android does this too, by the way. When you swipe down in Android, you also get a Control Center. And then a link from the Control Center to the settings. There is no link to settings from this Control Center, but a lot of the things you want to do are here. Now, here's one that I run into all the time. On Android, you see here we have airplane mode, the cellular, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth. On Android, if you press and hold those, you can change the settings. Not on iOS. On iOS, you can see what's going on, but you won't bring you to settings. You have to go out of that and go into settings. And here's another thing to know. When you tap it, it disables it. And notice what it said, by the way. It said disabled until tomorrow. So just
it's a temporary disable by
it's not
just
a permanent, it's temporary. It's a one-day disable. Same thing with Bluetooth. Until tomorrow, right?
Yes, and that's because Apple makes the assumption, and here's another thing that folks are going to have to sort of get used to is some people would refer to it as nannying, but the slight difference in the way that Apple thinks about UX, user experience, versus Google, where Apple maybe tries to assume things about you, including that most people, when they are disabling their Wi-Fi or their Bluetooth, they intend to do it temporarily and will eventually want those to be turned back on so that the next day when their Apple Watch won't connect to their phone, they're not going, why won't this connect? And it ends up being that, well, you turned off Bluetooth yesterday, don't you remember?
By the way, iMore is your friend in all of this. They have lots of guides. And if you're saying, for instance, I know there's a back tap feature, double and triple tap, but where is it? Good luck finding it. It's in accessibility, of course. So if you don't know, and we're not here to look over your shoulder, Google it and go to iMore, and you can even say iMore site:imore.com /backtap, and iMore will have a very nicely done piece. They've really kind of started to specialize in this.
In the case of BackTap, though, I will point you to twit.tv/HOI, which is my hands-on iOS show where I've done a video showing how to do BackTap. But iMore is a good secondary.
There's one other thing that's going to stymie you. When you're in the control panel on on Android, there's a button that lets you customize it. You don't see that here. You might assume it's not customizable. No, it is. It's just not in here. You have to go to settings and customize the control panel in settings. And good luck in finding that. Oh, one more thing that's really handy. This search up at the top. It doesn't always work, but if you want to find where I set the settings for Control Center, pulling it down, because it's not, by the way, it's not visible by default. When you first go to settings, it's not there. You wouldn't even know there's a search. You have to pull it down, and then you can not always, but often you can search for what you're looking for. And here it is, the Control Center, and here's how you edit the Control Center. You can delete and add, and there's a bunch more you can see that I don't have turned on that people often like. So Control Center is very useful. It is editable, but not from within Control Center. It'd be nice to have just like a little edit button. They do that, by the way. Remember, home, swipe left. They do that at the bottom of this. There's a little edit button, but not in the Control Center. There's so much to talk about, but I think those are the big three apps. You're going to find parallel apps or even identical apps on iOS. Don't worry about that. That's not going to be as much of a problem. Apps are more expensive on iOS and often charge when they didn't on Android, so that's something to be aware of. Android apps tend to be free in many cases where they're not on iOS. Certainly the UI is different, not as different as it used to be. This is something you'll get used to in a day. My 87-year-old mother can get used to it in a day. You can get used to it in a day. You'll get used to it in a day. And then finally, play with those settings because it is very different. But almost always, there's an analog for things you can do on Android. It's just not necessarily where you expect it to be. Because, both of these operating systems are getting long in the tooth. I think Android's done a better job of organizing their settings. But even there, when you get a new version of Android, it sometimes takes a while to figure out how to do something.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
Well,
did we get everything?
I think we covered as much as we possibly can. Of course, feel free to reach out if you're making the switch from Android to iOS and you have questions. iOS Today at twit.tv. Be happy to answer those. Bottom line is, it's doable. I think you're going to really like the iPhone. There are a few frustrations. It used to be widgets drove me crazy. I really missed widgets. I think a lot of that's been smoothed out as both operating systems have evolved. They've converged. And Mikah and I go back and forth all the time. I use both Android and iOS daily. And love things about each of them. Yeah, yeah. I think if you had to... It's funny because for a long time, if I had to pick one, I would have picked Android, a Pixel phone from Google. But ever since iOS 14, I feel like now I could easily make iPhone my daily driver and not look back. I think if you're thinking about the switch, it's going to be a positive, I think, in most cases. I agree. Okay. Let's take a break. Take a break. The news. We got some big news. But first, a word about Casper. Tonight's going to be a long night. And getting a good night's sleep is so important. I'm glad that, I'm glad I have a Casper, and I think you would be too. Yes. If anxiety is keeping you up, worry. Casper is a great solution. You spend a third of your life or more, in my case, half my life, in bed. Because I'm always trying to get to sleep, I'm always tired. I take naps. You're going to be very glad you have a Casper. And by the way, not just a Casper mattress, but Casper pillows, Casper sheets, Casper glow light. They have everything you need to make your time in bed better.
It's the sleep company with outrageously comfortable products at not so outrageous prices. From award-winning mattresses to pillows, sheets, duvets, Casper transforms the way we sleep, one snooze at a time. Napping on a Casper is extra special, too, by the way. I just want to say I love my Casper naps. They have bedding. They have even have bed frames. There's even a dog bed. Casper has very, very liberal return policy. If for any reason you don't like it, you have 100 days to call them up. They'll come and get it. You don't even have to pack it back up. They'll come and get it and refund you every penny. They do something that's very hard to do. They both give you support. I like a firm mattress. I like support, but at the same time, I don't like it when my bony bits are kind of not sinking into the, I want a little sink and I want a little support. And that's exactly what Casper does. Inside, precisely, exactly, I've counted them, 1,501 perforations. And Mikah knows this to create a cooling system so effective you won't notice it. But sleeping cool is the key to a good night's sleep. And that's what a Casper does. It keeps you refreshed. Only Casper mattresses are made with 86, I counted them, supportive gel pods to align your spine and eliminate aches and pains. Altogether, it's the cooling, supportive comfort you need for the most refreshed feeling come morning. It's so nice. It's, you know what? It's one of those beds when you get in it, especially with the Casper mattresses and pillows and the sheets. When you get in it, you just go,
every time.
Every time. Thank you. With over 20,000 online reviews on Amazon, Casper, and Google, they have an average of 4.8 stars. That's almost perfect. It's rapidly becoming the internet's favorite mattress. You can be sure of your purchase, too. As I mentioned, very liberal 100-night risk-free sleep-on-it trial. Casper offers free shipping and painless returns in the U.S. and Canada. And now with 0% APR financing options, it's even easier to buy a Casper mattress. You deserve it. You owe it to yourself. I'm just telling you, you're a good person. You deserve a good night's sleep. Go to Casper.com/iOS today. Use the code iOS today for $100 off select mattresses. iOS today, the code. That way they know you saw it here. That helps us. We appreciate it. Get $100 off select mattresses. Some terms and conditions apply. See Casper.com/terms to find out what those are. Casper, CASPER.com/iOS today. And don't forget that code iOS today. Save yourself $100 on select mattresses. So John Prosser was wrong.
Well, okay. I know there's big news, and I want to talk about the big news, but there was news that happened before the big news that I want to touch on first.
Even bigger news?
It was big news.
If you say so.
Apple introduced Apple One.
Oh, that's true.
That's
pretty big news.
Yes, and that happened before the big news that we'll get to. So it was interesting.
They didn't even send out a press release.
No, so yeah, this is what was interesting is that they used the very boring earnings call as the announcement of Apple One. Tim Cook in his opening statement said, I think like half of the way through, if I remember correctly, that Apple One would be shipping tomorrow. I
think it was Luca Maestri. It was the
he
CFO,
said it later.
Right? Oh, he said it too. Okay.
Yeah, so originally I thought the same. I thought it was said by Luca first, and then it ended up that I went and read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So iMore has
that was their announcement. That's crazy.
Yeah, and that was their announcement. So Apple One, we talked about it, of course, after the event, but essentially it is a way to bundle Apple's different subscription services together. Apple has a page now where you can go. It's apple.com/Apple-1, and it kind of gives you the rundown on what Apple One is.
The funny thing is, I saw, the analyst call. I saw that, and I went, oh, that's today. And I ran over and I said, well, how do I turn it on? And here's a good example of how stuff is buried. Yes. You tap your head, you go to subscriptions, and there's a little announcement, a little banner. It won't be on mine because I signed up. A little banner at the top saying, Apple One is here. Sign up for it. That's it.
I must have done the same thing because I was wondering how in the world do I sign up for this? I went to the page. I couldn't find it there. So I was like, I bet it's in subscriptions. I headed there and that's where it was. There are 3 different subscriptions. There's individual, family, and Premier. They get more expensive and add more features as you go. The bottom rung, the individual one, which is $14.95 a month, includes Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, and Apple iCloud storage for 50 gigabytes of storage. Family, of course, is going to let you share the service with up to 5 other people.
You get more storage too because of that.
Yes, you get the same services as before, but you get 200 gigabytes of storage space. And then Premier is where you get the whole kit and caboodle plus 2 terabytes of storage. So
and Apple Fitness when it comes out.
Yes, that adds News Plus and Fitness Plus when it comes in 2020 at the end of this year. That is the $30 a month service, but you end up saving $25 a month if you would have subscribed to all of those in another way. And perhaps one of the most interesting things about this is on top of having the 2 terabytes of storage, you can subscribe separately to Apple's iCloud storage plan, bringing your total up to bringing your amount up to a total of 4 terabytes of iCloud
That's
storage.
An important
space.
tip, because if you don't want 4 terabytes, you should probably cancel your existing subscription once you sign up for Apple One. As far as I can tell, it doesn't automatically cancel it.
It will with the other ones. It will cancel your standalone. Basically, if you subscribe to a thing, so say you are
with the other stuff, except for everything but storage.
Yes. So, if you were a News Plus subscriber separately and you go for the individual plan, of course, it's not going to cancel News Plus because it's not included, but it will cancel your music subscription, your TV Plus subscription. There were some questions about how that works if you've got free space. Do I need to wait until I have my Apple Arcade free 3 months before I can subscribe? I'm still digging into that. Apple's support pages for this are still new, early days.
It looks
so I'll get
like
back to you.
If you have an ongoing subscription and it's not going to renew for a few months, it might be worth holding off on Apple One until we find out what the policy is. What it looks like it did is it just said, okay, I'm going to take over. I'll refund you any prepaid stuff, but you're going to lose any free stuff that you have still coming up. So except for Apple TV, I noticed that it's not going to charge me for Apple TV. It tells you, this is one thing Apple does do very well. There's an easy cancel button right there in the subscription thing, and you can even cancel individual services one by one. In fact, it tells you kind of what you're saving. So I'm paying $30 a month for the 5 services, and the family plan, it would be $45 a month if I were paying individually. And you can then uncheck these boxes if you want to see what the savings would be and that kind of thing. So this gives you a kind of a little almost mini calculator to tell you, what you're saving and so forth. That's kind of a nice feature. I'm going to keep Apple One. I think it's a good thing, and I'm actually very excited about Fitness Plus because it's going to tie to the Apple Watch. It's going to be pretty cool. But again, I now have to go and cancel my iCloud storage because it will double bill on that. And so I think I want to cancel that. Maybe I don't. Maybe not.
Here's the thing: is that when you subscribe originally, it will.
It replaces
it replaces it. And so then you can go in and add if you wanted to. Because if you went with the Premier, then you're going to get that 2 terabytes that you had before.
Right.
And so you can add on if you want to. But it'll basically, as we've said,
it did replace it. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, it'll overtake the other stuff.
iTunes Match, do you think I should cancel that?
That I don't know still.
It's not included.
I keep my iTunes Match because I don't know if I get rid of it.
I think I'm going to cancel that subscription.
I feel like I need to ask Serenity Caldwell before.
It renews in 2 weeks, and I think now is the time to cancel that.
But what about your library of music that came before Apple
Well, it's already
Music?
been matched. You only need to match it once. I do think, though, there is an issue about cloud streaming as well. So I'm going to turn it off, and I'll let you know. Yeah, ask Serenity. Wait a minute. You can't ask Serenity. She works at Apple now.
Well, I can ask a friend, and a friend can tell me about.
Oh man,
that.
you have a pipeline into Apple, man. I'm so jealous.
Oh God, no, I do not.
Well,
folks. That is
I could
not
ask
true.
Lori Gill. Maybe she'll know, or she could ask Serenity.
Lori would probably know.
Yeah.
The reason why I said Serenity is not because she works at Apple.
She used to work at iMore. She was your
and she did
colleague.
all of the Apple music
was the
coverage.
queen of that.
Yeah, she knew iTunes.
You know, Renee, you know what? Remind me. I will ask Renee, MacBreak Weekly. And Renee or Lori, one of them will certainly know. But for now, I just turn it off. I'm the only.
Good luck.
Well, I already matched all my music, so it's already in the cloud, but will it no longer stream?
See, it might all be in the cloud, but it's your music was uploaded to the cloud as opposed to it being right.
Gallifrey Rebel in our chat room says, I canceled Match last year, and as long as you maintain your Apple Music subscription, you have the same functionality. And I do plan to do that. If I were going to turn off my Apple Music subscription, I would make a point of downloading everything that I had uploaded. If it's not on my hard drive, you know, sometimes after you match it, you delete it. So just make sure that I have everything I uploaded in that higher quality 256 kilobit AAC that Apple provides, and without any piracy restrictions. And then I would discontinue my Apple Music. So all that music would continue to operate, not the downloaded streaming stuff. If that makes any sense at all.
A little bit, maybe.
I'll ask Renee. but he did it last year, so the proof is in the pudding,
as they say.
Yes. So that was one of the stories.
Yes. But here's the other story is that, and the reason why I'm moving around a lot over here is because I was trying to show.
You're gonna do the AR?
Yeah, I am. Here we go.
So you have to surf to.
Here it is.
Oh, this is the invitation, the AR version of the invitation.
And I'm currently doing this on an iPad Air.
Now, so people are saying, look at that. It opens like an Apple laptop.
How clever.
So that's the giveaway. Of course, we kind of knew this was going to. The invitation says one more thing. Here, I could show it. I've got it. I actually got invited. I might be back on Apple's good side. We'll see. It's easy to invite somebody during a pandemic. That's no problem.
Invite him outside of the pandemic, cowards.
Yeah. That's cool. It's not as fancy of an AR animation as usual.
Yeah, some of them have been more intense, but I think that's, well, no, I'm not going to do the tea leaves. Never mind.
Well, we know what it is.
Right.
We'll say what Mark Gurman and others are saying, but obviously this is the Apple Silicon laptop or computer announcement. There may be Apple tags, there may be Apple Studio, iPod. What do they call them? iPod Air Studio Pro headphones.
Yes, that's it.
There may be those, but we know there's going to be Macs. The only question is what Macs, and I think the rumor's pretty strong. What's annoying?
Oh. What's annoying is that the rumors suggest there's going to be a 13-inch MacBook Pro, a 13-inch MacBook Air, and what's that last one?
The one you just bought.
16-inch MacBook Pro.
I told you would regret it, my friend. I told you. I warned you.
You did. You warned me, but alas.
So
I'm looking forward to hear if they end up announcing this, which is the belief. I'm looking forward to seeing your review of this.
I will.
Apple Silicon.
I don't know if I'll buy all three, but I'll tell you what. My suspicion is one will be available sometime relatively soon, the next few weeks, but the rest will not. Would be my guess.
13-inch Pro available in the next few weeks.
Guessing both Pros will be available next year. And that the Air.
Oh, you think Air.
But here's the thing that actually does disappoint me. I was really hoping Apple would come up with a new design to kind of herald the new guts. But the rumor is that they will be identical to the existing hardware. Just instead of an Intel chip, it'll have Apple Silicon in it. Now, performance will be different. Battery life. I think you're going to see very different battery life. I'm curious about the performance. The rumor is the chip will be similar to, if not identical to, the A14 chip Apple just put in the iPhone 12 and the new iPad. That's a 5-nanometer chip, a lot of power. In fact, it's got 6 cores now in the iPhone. It could have more on a Mac. We don't know. So just because it's the A14 platform doesn't mean it doesn't have more capabilities than you're seeing in the iPad and the iPhone.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's an important point. that folks need to pay attention to there. It's not as if they've taken an iPad Pro and turned it into a MacBook. This will have more capabilities and, you know, more performance stuff that is facing towards the MacBook Pro or MacBook Air line, and it's going to be specific to that. So it's going to be more than just an iPad Pro in a MacBook shape. And
we'll have to see.
I'm excited to we'll of course be covering the event live next week.
Oh yeah,
so,
you and I will.
Yeah, so it'll be an early iOS Today.
Tune in around 8 a.m. Pacific, and then at 10 a.m.
we'll go right into the show.
You and I will be buffing up our Apple credit cards.
Only if they announce some other stuff along with those new Apple Silicon.
Yeah, because you just got a laptop.
Tags
You're kind of out of luck.
Yeah, I'm good to go laptop-wise.
I've been holding off. I did get my most recent Mac, besides the ones I bought for you and everybody else. Lisa just got a new 16-inch as well. My most recent is the most recent MacBook Air, which I really like. I'll be I think what I'll probably do is get the new MacBook Air and compare the two in terms of performance and all the rest. Battery life. It'll be very interesting to see.
Let's see, what else do we have on the list? So yes, we've got Bloomberg kind of reporting on that, and we'll see more when Leo and I cover that event live.
We'll find out in a week. You know, exactly. It's really interesting because everybody had converged on November 17th as the date. And I thought that's a little late. It's a week before Thanksgiving. It's a little late. And I think the conventional wisdom was, well, you don't want to send out invitations on election day, and then who knows how long that's going to take and eating up the news cycle. Apple doesn't care about that. Apple don't care. Apple's like the honey badger. It don't care. It's just it sent out the invitations yesterday to avoid today, but they don't. You know, if we're still talking about it next Tuesday, doesn't matter because we're going to do it. So I think actually the 10th. I always thought the 10th was a much better date, and as it turns out, it is. So good. Cool. We're going to find out. Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait.
Folks out there who have had issues with their AirPods Pro, like I have, multiple instances of crackling and static and weirdness.
You're just crazy. It's you. It's all you. It's not your. It's not. It's just you. No, it isn't just you.
It
turns out.
Apple has announced a service program for this. So I had to replace 2 sets total for this issue. This was before the service program came out, and then heard from a lot of different people who said that they were also having this issue. Now Apple has said this is definitely an issue, and you can basically get them repaired or replaced through Apple's retail store or an authorized service provider. So essentially you need to contact Apple if you're having this issue and go through the process to make sure that you can get a replacement. Unfortunately, one of the things that's changed, according to folks who kind of went through the process, is with my first set of AirPods Pro that went bad, I was able to just use the chat feature, and the person on the other end asked me some questions, and I, responded with some stuff, and they said, okay, we'll send you a replacement. Good. But now it seems that Apple is requiring you to bring them in for a technician to actually test them.
Well, they want to know what's going on, maybe.
Yeah, and they don't want people, I guess, just getting new ones if there's not really something broke with them. But it's kind of unfortunate because we're, trying to shelter in place. And so you're kind of forced to go out and get it fit or get it tested. Although, we can't confirm that, but that was an anecdotal thing, and it may not be that that's the case for every single chat session that you have. And it always depends because it's human beings on the other end of the line. So things can be different between them.
So typically there'll be a website where you can enter the serial number, right? Or is that not the case?
No, not for this one. So basically, you will have to, it just says a small percentage of AirPods Pro. Affected units were manufactured before October 2020. That was last month.
Everything.
Yeah, that's all the AirPods Pro practically that are out there. So it says Apple or an Apple authorized service provider will service the affected AirPods Pro. So basically, if you have AirPods Pro made before October 2020 and you're experiencing any crackling or static, then you can go and get them tested. So you have to either find an Apple authorized service provider, make an appointment, or contact Apple support directly, and it will help you. There is a page for the service program that will include a link in the show notes too. So if this sounds, if I can make the pun, like you, then definitely go get this checked out and get a new pair of AirPods or a new individual unit, because there is something wrong.
You're not crazy, Mikah.
Yes, it's not my ears.
Yeah, so mine never had that problem. So it's not everyone.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't, and I wish we could know exactly what it was that ends up going wrong with them, but that is how it is.
It's rare that Apple issues these. They don't do them very often, maybe once or twice a year. The fact that they're issuing a recall on these means, there's a problem. It's not just you. Yeah.
Up next, we have feedback and questions.
I'm ready. Go ahead. Oh, but first, let me comb my hair. Okay, now I'm ready. Go ahead.
All right, feedback and questions. The first one comes from Patrick. Patrick writes, a friend of mine seems to keep running into problems trying to connect to Zoom on iOS. Though connected to the internet, audio over internet isn't offered. She has to try many times to connect even with the appropriate meeting link. Any suggestions of what to do? She has made sure to update the Zoom app. She is clicking on links I send to her via SMS from my Android phone. Also, is there a way for her to share her screen to me on Windows or Android so I can figure out what is going on and help her learn how to do various things? I don't live nearby, so please take that into consideration. This is one of the problems with troubleshooting or answering. Oftentimes, it needs to have more detail. The first thing that came to my mind is that there may be a permissions issue that your friend is having. And so what we would want to do I can't. Leo, maybe you can show, because, again, I shut off Ecamm for this. Okay. If you can launch the Settings app.
Yes.
And then I don't know if you have Zoom on your iPhone.
Oh, I'm sure if I did, I took it off, but I might. So let me just see. Let's see if I have Zoom on here. I do. I'm gonna zoom. So let's go to Settings.
And then, as we showed earlier, he's going to scroll all the way down to Zoom.
All the way down to the bottom. It's the very last entry.
And then, okay. So you currently don't have it. You probably haven't launched Zoom since you re-downloaded it to have it ask permission.
Let's try this.
Yeah, because I want to show how to add camera permission.
Zoom. Do I have to sign in?
I don't know. Maybe if you just tap join a meeting, I wonder if it will.
Or do the video settings.
Crud.
This might be one of the settings that she's having trouble with.
Yes, but I'm just wondering if it's a permissions issue. Let me just send you a quick meeting code.
Yeah, send me a meeting code. Let's have a meeting, you and me.
Sounds good. Just because I want to show how the thing works. And so then we copy invite link, and I'll send that to Leo. So basically, Leo and I are going to go through this process that you were talking about, Patrick. So I've sent Leo an SMS, or in this case, an iMessage that has the meeting code.
And I will get a little pop-up that says, please enter your name, Leo's iPhone 11. This is what you're talking about.
Yes. So you go ahead and tap OK here.
Zoom would like to access the camera. And, this is true on desktop as well as iPhone. You have to say OK to that. Hello.
And then go ahead and choose Join with Video.
Now, you think it'll ask for microphone access.
Yes. And then you tap OK. And then
don't allow notifications. To hear others, please join audio. Now, you'll also want to see this call using internet audio. And otherwise, it won't. Now it's using... And you just muted me because you...
Oh, sorry. I meant to not do it that way.
Stay muted. I don't want... So now you're saying, let's go to the settings. Should I close? Let's close it.
Yes. Go ahead and close that. I'll end this meeting.
Okay. So we're just going to zip that out. And now I'm going to go back to settings where those preferences will now suddenly appear.
Yes. So your friend should check to make sure that both microphone and camera are listed there and that they are toggled on. Because what may have happened is in going through the process originally, they might have accidentally tapped don't allow, don't allow, don't allow, thinking that those things should not be allowed. If that is not the solution, let me know. I would be curious to hear more. As for the sharing her screen, that does get a little complicated if you are going to be on Windows and Android. But my quick solution is a lot of modern laptops and computers and some monitors and just folks in general will have a webcam of some sort. And so your friend could call you via the webcam and then can show you the phone. It's not as clean. It's not as easy as folks being able to share their screen more directly. But you are on Android, they're on iOS. And so what I would typically do with my friends or family who are also on iOS is do a screen recording of my phone, showing them how to walk through the process. Because you don't have an iOS device, that's not as easy. Do you have any other tips for being able to show off an iPhone screen to a Windows or Android device?
This is a historically difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
You mean inside a Zoom or just in general?
Just in general,
because you're doing.
yeah.
I mean, you use that eCam and works quite nicely.
Yes.
But you have to make a call to make that work.
Exactly. There doesn't seem to be a simple solution there if you're trying to walk the person through. But you mentioned, Leo, you were going to walk your mom through all these steps. How do you plan to do that?
I was just going to talk her through it. So
just a phone call?
Yeah. Let me think about that. Yeah, I was just gonna. Well, we'll be on FaceTime, but you don't. But there is no easy way to share the screen, as far as I know, in FaceTime, right?
No.
So I could. That would be kind of nice if I could share the screen. Let me think about that. Let me think about that.
What I typically do with my grandma is she has an iPad, I have an iPad. I'll FaceTime her on my iPad, and then she can show me her iPhone screen on the camera. I can walk her through the steps from my phone, but Patrick doesn't have an iPhone of his own, and so he needs to be able to see her screen in order to help her through the process. So that's where it does get difficult to help with that. Yeah. That's why I think an external webcam of some sort, then you can, she would be able to flash her phone up onto the screen and say, this is where I am on this, and he would be able to help her. So
yeah, that's a really interesting question. I'm sure there's good ways to solve this. You know, back in the day, there was no way to do it. When Steve Jobs used to show off his iPhone on his presentations, they had a very elaborate rig hooked up to it with a lot of wires coming out of it. We talked with Alex Lindsay at the time, and he had set up some ways to do it, but they involved jailbreaking the iPhone. But I would think on a call, anything that allows you to share, like Zoom, share an iPhone screen, you should make the call using that technology.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Zoom does let you share your screen. Yeah. So just do a Zoom call.
Any technology that will, in a call, let you share the screen seems like would work fine. So Zoom, Google Meet.
Although I guess this person is having trouble with Zoom. So this is the problem. That's the original problem. Oh, man. Well, let's hope that the tip that I gave you will help get that part solved. And then you could use Zoom to share her screen and help her walk through those steps.
Yeah. There are other third-party apps that will let you do some of this as well. If she were on the same network as you, you could AirPlay it, which would be very cool. That's what we do. But that's not going to help her. There are some solutions to this. Zoom is probably the easiest since you already have Zoom.
Yep. All right. John from Chicago writes, Mikah, you are scaring me.
One other. Join.me.
Join.me.
Join.me has screen sharing, and I think will work on the iPhone. Yes, it will. So it's like Zoom. It's another meeting solution. It's from our good friends at LogMeIn who own LastPass.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah. There you go. Join.me. Now my dramatic message again. John from Chicago writes, Mikah, you are scaring me.
What?
I just bought a brand new Subaru with CarPlay, but during the last iOS Today, you and Leo talked about Apple removing the Lightning port on the iPhone. I connect my iPhone to CarPlay with a Lightning cable. So if Apple removes the Lightning port, how will we connect to CarPlay?
First of all,
this sounds very likely and will make my CarPlay obsolete.
First of all, you shouldn't let us morons scare you. We're just speculating.
Yes.
But it is clear that if Apple removes the port, they're going to have some way to get into and out of the phone. My guess is that they're going to do the same thing they do with the iPad Pro. You know, on the iPad Pro, I could show you a close-up here. You have the smart connector, which is these 3 pins. That can actually transmit data as well as power. I suspect any iPhone that no longer has a lightning port will have some sort of smart connector on it, and that will tie in very nicely to this MagSafe solution that Apple's introduced. I think it's why MagSafe exists, because your MagSafe charger will then have 3 little pins. You see the 3 little pins on the Magic Keyboard. Your MagSafe charger will add those 3 little pins, and that will become a data connection as well. So there's no way Apple is going to remove the Lightning port without providing some form of support for not just CarPlay, but all sorts of other situations where you might want to connect to the iPhone. So I suspect that will be a solution. Remember, though, and this could be the bad news, most newer cars are doing CarPlay wirelessly. And so that may be an indicator that Apple is thinking about this. My new Mustang Mach-E, which will arrive next month, I believe.
Wow.
They're making it November 23rd.
Cool.
That's going to be its birthday.
The day before Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah. Well, no, 3 days before Thanksgiving.
Or is that? Oh, I guess it's later this year.
Yeah, but still, you know, I'm giving thanks. It's actually a week before my birthday, so it's even a better time.
Oh, nice!
But
there you go.
Ford has announced already that it will have wireless charging pads, and it will have wireless CarPlay. So CarPlay is going wireless, But I still think they're going to. I still think they're going to do the pogo pins. I think they have to.
I absolutely think so too. So yeah, John, you'll be able to, in theory, snap something on the back there and then be able to plug in still.
That's why the MagSafe. I really feel like it's all they have a plan. There's a plan.
Yep, step by step.
There's a plan in place.
The last bit of feedback or questions comes from Edgar. Edgar writes, "Hey, Mikah, I was listening to iOS today on Wednesday, and you gave that advice about you two gave that advice about deleting the beta profile prior to getting the iPhone 12 for a seamless transition. I'm looking to do that in the near future." So I did. Good. Ever since I have been getting this weird and annoying pop-up asking me to please update from the iOS 14 beta every time I unlock my phone. But when I go to settings, it says I'm up to date. Was hoping you can shed a light on what is going wrong here. Edgar, I am pleased to tell you that was a bug in the beta that would make that pop-up happen every single time. There were lots of people, developers and those of us who run betas because we talk about them, who were annoyingly tweeting about this. Apple has since released the release candidate for iOS 14.2 to developers that fixes this little bug. This has happened before with a beta version of, I think it was iOS 12 the last time it happened. And essentially, yeah, every time you unlock your phone, it says, please update to the latest beta of iOS, and 12, in this case 14. And it was annoying. But Edgar, you did nothing wrong. You were all right. And there was not a beta available at the time. It was just a bug that caused that to happen. So if anybody else out there was experiencing that, make sure you update to the latest version of iOS, and that will fix the problem.
Boy, that is annoying.
Yeah,
now,
it was very annoying.
Why did I not have that problem? Because I was in the beta. I removed the profile. Maybe it's because I removed the profile.
You were on the public beta, right?
Yes. Oh, this was a developer beta. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So public beta people did not have this problem.
Yeah, you were A-OK.
A-OK. All right, Mikah.
Now it's time to put on hats.
It's time to wear some hats. I don't need to wear a hat today because, as you can tell, I haven't had a haircut in quite some time. And it's just growing ears. My hair is growing ears. And here is the king of soft serve.
This, folks, is a reminder that when you don't vote, you get
a
tyranny.
king. You get a monarchy.
Yes.
Or a wolf. So I'm a sheep in wolf's clothing, I guess, today. This was my Halloween outfit.
I saw you and Lisa's photo.
Yeah.
That was cute.
Yeah, I paired it with a mask that had a animal face on it. Those are those cat masks I gave Lisa, but it turns out pretty much all animal faces are the same. So I put this on, and it was a very effective mask. She put hers on with next week's app cap, and it worked very well. We terrified people all over town. We didn't trick or treat. We socially distanced, and we were wearing masks as part of our mask, so it worked out just fine. So what is our app caps are, of course, how we honor the app of the week. What is your app of the week this week, my friend?
Oh, boy. My app of the week is sadly something that I can't show on screen now that I think about it.
Oh, I could download it real quick.
Yeah, would you mind? Because I can walk you through it so that other people can see how it works.
Walk me through it, Mikah. Walk me through it.
Yeah, right. I'll let you download it.
I shall download it.
Actually, I can explain it while you are, because I want to mention it. So this is an app, a game rather, that has just absolutely taken off. It wasn't too long ago that the Congresswoman AOC had done an online stream playing Among Us, which is a little collaborative game. It's sort of a mini game, honestly, where you are among a crew of like-minded, I guess, space-faring people, and you're all in a ship, and your goal is to find the 1 or 2 imposters on the ship. The goal of the imposters, on the other hand, is to murder all of the people on the ship before they find out who the imposters are. One by one. And what's fun is that while you're doing it, you play these little games. You're supposed to, the goal of the players, not the imposters, is to go around the ship and complete tasks. And if everybody completes all of the tasks before the imposters can take everybody out, then you win. You have to clear an asteroid field. You've got to realign the charging coils. You've got to do all these different things.
So it's kind of like that other space game that we used to play. I can't remember the name of it, but where you're on the bridge of a ship. But this one has a little added fillip, which is that you can get murdered.
Yes.
While you're doing it. I'm actually really glad it's on the iPhone. I didn't know that. I'm very excited.
You will want to choose allow whenever you get that thing. I turn off personalized ads.
I'm going to remove ads.
Yeah, I think it's $1.99 or something like that to remove ads.
I don't mind doing that. It's worth it. Remove all ads. Yeah, $1.99. There you go. And I just do it's a little hard with the wolf on. Oh, I launched my hearing aids. I hate it when that happens. You have to tap confirm with side button.
Yeah, and $1.99 to remove the ads. If you're playing this on iOS, it's also available on Windows through the Steam library of content. Now you've got the ads removed. You can close out of that, and then I usually turn off the ads. You can close out of that announcement. So there are several different versions here. There's local, which is where you can play on a local Wi-Fi network with your friends in person, or your germ bubble. There's online, which is a way you can host a room. So you are in charge of a room. Other people can join that room. There's public, where you just find a game that's public. Basically, somebody else tapped host and they've invited people. Or there's private, which is where you can play with your friends and other people online, but it's in a private room.
Let me screen mirror this, because then that way you can hear the sound of music.
The hills are alive.
If there is any sound of music.
Yes. Okay. And then we'll go back, because if we go back to the main screen, there is free play mode, and that is how I want to show off. So in the bottom right corner is the free play mode, and this is kind of how you learn to play.
There we go. Now we're on a ship.
Yes, you are on a ship, and to your left, you'll see a little laptop.
Yeah.
You've got joystick control, so in the bottom left corner is the joystick to move around your character. Walk and then choose Customize. You got to stand by the laptop, and then, now you can choose Customize in the bottom right corner. And here are the different tasks that you can set up. So you can add more tasks if you want to, or take some away. Again, this is just free play where you learn how to play. So
can I be an imposter? Is that a good thing?
You can, but the problem is actually, go ahead.
Does it normally assign you imposter or crew person when you play? So you don't, that's random, but you could, for the purpose of the tutorial, choose one or the other.
Choose to be the imposter.
Well, what should I choose here? You tell me.
I think we should start out as not the imposter, so I can show you how gameplay works for an average character.
So these are the roles I could assume?
Yes. So if you tap the X button in the top left, you'll see your task list in the top left screen there. Electrical, you need to fix the wiring. The reactor, you need to start the reactor. Electrical, you need to divert power to weapons. So in the top right corner of the screen are the settings and the map. Go ahead and tap on the map.
Because I have to figure out where I'm going.
Yeah, so right now you're in the cafeteria up in the top, and all of those exclamation points are places where you need to do work.
Okay.
So if you can navigate
to
one
go
of
out the hall. Oh, no. Let's see. I got to go down. No, how do I get? Oh, down to storage and then out to the. Oh, this is going to be hard.
Yeah, down into storage and then left to electrical.
Okay, we're going to go. This is fun.
And then, of course, normally you're playing with a lot of other people who are also running around. You don't know if the person running past you ends up being an imposter. And then you can go up into this room here, and you'll see these different tasks. So they're highlighted in yellow.
There's one I have to do, right?
Yeah, so you'll walk up to it, and then you'll tap Use.
Okay.
And now you need to do this little mini game.
Fix the wiring.
Yeah, so you'll draw from the left to connect with the proper wire on the right. Now, what's interesting is that during this time, an imposter could come up to you and
kill me,
get rid of you. Yeah, so you kind of have to do these tasks as fast as possible.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, this is easy. They made it very easy. Just straight across.
Oh, it was different each time. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, now.
So yeah, just go ahead and connect all the wires.
Come on.
Scoot back just so that it's the copper touching the copper. There you go.
Ah! Come on, Cherry. Oh. It's different every time, too, which is... I'm going to get murdered for sure. Okay. Connect.
Luckily.
Connect.
There you go.
Now
go to the left there. There's a panel where you've got more work to do.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, no.
And then this one, you just need to bring up the power of that one that's highlighted in red.
That's it. Okay.
Yep. Now you can walk to the next one. You could go to the reactor or navigation.
Okay, so I need my map. I am here in electrical, and I need to go out the door. Okay, I know where I'm going here. I'm going to go to admin, right? I need to go there too, right? So I'm going to go back the way I came.
Yeah, and in fact, when tasks require multiple steps, you'll see that fix wiring is 1 out of 3 and weapons is 1 out of 2. When you complete the first step, the game will give you an arrow to let you know sort of what the next step is.
Oh, yeah, it says. Yeah. So what's interesting is the kids like this because it's a social event. So again with the electrical. So they're all the time they're doing this, they're chatting away. Oh man, and there are probably a few screams and that kind of thing. So it's fun.
And what's fun too is that as you're talking with your friends, one of them this whole time is murdering people, and they're trying to pretend like they're one of the group.
Do you quiz them? Is that also part of it, like in Werewolf?
So what happens is when a dead body is found, anybody who finds the dead body can report it. And when it's reported, then you can call an emergency meeting where everybody kind of chats and tries to figure out who did it. And so, you ask everybody, you're like, I didn't see you in this room, or I saw you running around by yourself. And then that person has to defend themselves. And so that gets to be really fun. And sometimes, because what you end up doing is voting to eject someone from the airlock. So sometimes you
they even weren't the bad guy.
Exactly. So you end up ejecting the wrong person.
So is it always the same problem?
No,
that's because it's the tutorial, huh?
Well, no, and it's currently because you're doing the fix wiring thing, and so this is one specific step.
Boy, you couldn't do this if you're colorblind.
No. So see, now you've done with that. Go ahead and choose a different task.
That was just one of the tasks? Holy moly.
Each of the players has tasks that they need to complete. And like I said, their goal is to complete the tasks before the murderer or the imposter goes around. You don't have to choose on the left. You just have to do all those things. So I would choose my map and then find the next place to go.
Okay.
You're already in the room.
So they're at opposite ends now.
Yeah.
So, I see where I have to be. I'm already in the room, so I just go do that.
So you'll tap there. And you just need to align the perfect. And that was just a one-step one, so that was awesome. Now you can go to the reactor, or you can keep working on weapons.
This is kind of fun, even all by myself. This is something to do.
Yeah, exactly. I enjoyed playing it by myself at first, too.
Now, have you played it with people now?
Yes, and in fact, so last Tuesday, I did a live stream with the folks that I normally do Dungeons & Dragons with. We played this instead, just as a more easy thing to do. That was an easy one. Yeah. And this tonight, as a way to kind of not focus too heavily on the results.
Oh, this is a good idea. Play Among Us all night.
Yeah, we're going to be playing it again live, so folks could tune into that.
Where is that? I want to watch.
It is you can go to totalpartykill.live. You can also just follow my Twitter, and I'll send out a link.
If you need an extra player to beat up on, just let me know.
Yeah, if you're interested, absolutely.
Now, how do you play this on camera?
So when you play it on camera, the one thing that everybody agrees on is they will not reveal who the killer is. And so that's just kind of a thing. You know, if you get killed, you kind of have to try not to go, ah! Or if you do, you can, but you just can't reveal who the killer is. So the good thing, though, is that you don't have to use that cumbersome chat. You can just go ahead and talk to each other. And say, I think this
I closed it prematurely. Oh, now I forgot. Oh, crud.
You can close out of it and then bring it up again.
Oh, I forgot. Oh, it was... Oh, I have to start over now. Shoot. This is the part of the show where everybody hates it because Leo just plays a game for hours. And I don't want to stop until I at least... Ah! Okay, I give up.
Yeah, he keeps swiping out. This is a lot of fun. I will be sending you a link so that you originally my partner was interested in playing, but then when he found out he had to be in audio and video, he said, "Oh, I don't really want to do that."
So tell me again, when is this going to be?
This will be tonight I think we're doing it at 7 our time.
No, I will be busy.
Wait, maybe it's not 7.
I will either be very drunk. Or I'll be very drunk.
Oh, no, we're playing it at 4:45 p.m.
Oh, that makes more sense. Yeah, there won't be much to do. I expect that by 8 o'clock our time, Pacific time, we will have occasion to either celebrate or commiserate. Your choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'll send you a link and you can decide if you want to join in. But that's my app cap. Leo, what's yours?
Oh, this is something you picked before, so I feel kind of guilty. But on the other hand, not so much. So this is called Widgetsmith. And it's $1.99 a month, or you can do $20 a year. But if you are using iOS 14, and this is the reason I'm doing this one is because honestly, this is kind of a follow-up on what we were talking about earlier, which is people moving to iOS from Android. The idea of widgets is really one of the things that makes iOS even tenable. I am an Android. In fact, if I show you my my Android device, you'll see that's a widget. That's a widget. I have widgets everywhere. That's a widget. That's a widget. That's a widget. The difference, of course, in Android is these are live widgets. So if I'm listening to a news feed, for instance, well, it's a little slow right now. But if I were listening to a news feed, it would actually have a play button. All right, let's do a book. I guess that'll be a little bit faster. Well, never mind. Anyway, the widgets are live. Oh, I know why I'm on a different book now. Yes, let's go to the book that I'm listening to. Here. This is okay. Never mind. So now that's the app. But if I go to the widget, not only does it have the thing here, but also I can play from the widget, which you can't really do on iOS, and so that's going to be a little frustrating, I think, for people. But we can at least get the widgets on iOS a little bit closer to Android style. And you see, I have a lot of widgets. These are widgets. These are the Siri suggestion widgets. That's a widget. But you're limited to what widgets are available, right? Unless you use Widgetsmith. Widgetsmith is kind of a generic widget which allows you to customize what widgets you're using. And the thing I like about Widgetsmith, besides that, is that it's under very active development. And so the author has already started to add new features to Widgetsmith. For instance, they have I think a really nice new feature which lets you create a wallpaper that will match your widgets. You have widget sizes small, medium, or large. If you want to create a widget, like I just did, you can then modify it. That's large number 3, so I can use other widgets, but you can also modify it in the Widgetsmith app. So let's go to the Widgetsmith. Say that for me. Widgetsmith. The Widgetsmith app. And you see, I've created already a number of them. You really can create as many as you want. Here's a really cool one, which is a clock with a photo of your choice behind it. That's the widget. But there are many, many choices. This is the medium-sized widget. From a simple clock plus calendar, fuzzy time. A lot of people like that 11:15 thing. Dates, day and date. There's custom photos in an album, photo day and date, photo fuzzy time, calendar, reminders, weather. I really like there's tides, an activity bar. There's astronomy. You can have the moon phase. You can have a star field, the sunrise and sunset. And even after you pick, you can choose the font you want. There's a variety of fonts. The tint color you want. You can, if it's a photo app, you can choose the photo. You can even choose the time. So these are very, very customizable, and you can make a variety of them. So this is really hideous. That's one I made on the show when we first started talking about Widgetsmith. But actually, there's a lot of really neat things you can do. For instance, this is a moon widget that shows us, we just had a full moon, right? So it shows us the state of the moon. I really like that. I have a widget that, I guess I thought I had it. I will add it right now. That shows you, let's see, so you go down to Widgetsmith and you pick the widget. It's a small widget. I'm going to add the small widget. That's not the one I wanted, though. I wanted the one I created before. Yeah, so that's the activity monitor, and you see move, exercise. So Apple has an activity monitor, but it's circles. This one's a little bit clearer for me. I don't know. I prefer it. So you can customize that if you want. It is super powerful, I have to say. Oh, and there's one other thing I really like. They have timed widgets. So you can say between the hours of 8 and 10 p.m., I want this widget to show up, maybe the widget to encourage you to exercise, or the news widget, or a particular photo to show up. I think that's really cool. Now, I mentioned this is another new feature where you can say, look, my widgets all use this pastel yellow, so I'm going to create a pastel yellow wallpaper. You choose the color of your choice. It adds to the Photos app, and you can then make it your wallpaper for your widgets. That's pretty cool. You could choose any color arbitrarily. And so widgets, the reason Widgetsmith became famous, as you remember, was the TikToker who used it to completely change the look of her iPhone. It has gotten better and better, and more importantly, I think the guy who's doing, you know his name, I can't remember it off the top of my head.
David Smith.
David Smith, who's really awesome, is adding to this pretty actively. So as Apple adds capabilities, I'm sure that he will add those. But even more, I think he's going to add more and more capabilities. I think this is really a worthwhile $1.99 a month or $20 a year. In fact, I think I paid the $20 a year so that I can really take advantage of widgets. Again, Android folks, you're going to be a little disappointed because the widgets are not perhaps as sophisticated as you're used to, but at least we have widgets now. And I think they can be used appropriately. I really like this. Is a fantastic Hell widget, and I think that be able to use these different weather and so forth widgets is great. You can have a countdown, by the way. I did have a countdown till Election Day, but it's now 0, so I've taken it off. Widgetsmith, highly recommend it. You picked it, but I think it's worth a revisit because I think it's gotten better, and David's doing a really good job keeping it up to date, and he deserves the money and the attention.
Agreed. Wow, Leo, I think that brings us to the end of this episode.
My goodness.
We've done it.
We've done it once again. The King and the Wolf.
The King and I, the Wolf.
We do iOS today. Next week, remember, an hour early. Normally we do it at 9 a.m. Pacific. That's noon Eastern time. And that is 1500 UTC. So you can tune in and watch or listen live at twit.tv/live. Next week, it'll be 8 a.m., 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. And that will be 1400 UTC. So just keep that in mind. Twit.tv/live for the streams. If you're watching live or listening live, chat live at irc.twit.tv. After the fact, all the shows we do on Twitter are available at twit.tv. Patrick Delahanty, our engineer, announced that we passed a big milestone this weekend, 800 days of programming. If you started listening now, you wouldn't be through till January next year.
Wow.
Actually, 2023, I think.
Wow.
So we've got thousands of shows online at twit.tv. All the iOS shows are there at twit.tv/iOS. There's also a YouTube channel where you can easily go and download, if you want, a variety of video or audio formats from our YouTube channel. Just use YouTube Downloader. Now illegal. And... it's still out there. Just because GitHub took it down doesn't mean it's not still out there. It's very easy to install and well worth it. What else? If you're listening asynchronously, but you still want to be part of the community, we have a forum. It's a great forum. A lot of nice people in there at www.twit.community. Twit.community. Mike, how can people ask questions on the show?
Well, it's very easy to ask questions on the show. You just email your questions in audio, video, or text format to iostoday@twit.tv.
It's really easier for you to send us the questions than it is for us to answer them. But that's how we like it. Thanks, everybody, for being here. If you didn't vote today, I give you the rest of the day off. Go vote. Bring a snack, a chair, some water, some light reading, or maybe a couple of iOS Todays. But do make sure you exercise your most important responsibility in our republic, your right to vote. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time on iOS Today.
Ta-ta.
Bye-bye.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, host at TWiT TV. Got a question for you. Have you gotten tired of how bad your photos are looking every time you post them to Instagram? Better yet, have you gotten yourself a new camera and you can't quite figure out why the images just don't look that good? Well, I have a solution for you. It's my show, Hands On Photography. Each and every Thursday, I sit down and share different tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer and a better post processor. So subscribe today at twit.tv/hop to learn more.